Genesis 22. God proves he is the least moral person in the entire Bible by playing a weird loyalty game with Abraham that involves nearly murdering his son Isaac. Sometime later, God tested Abraham. He said to him, "Abraham." "Here I am," he replied. Then God said, "Take your son, your only son, whom you love, Isaac, and go to the region of Moriah. Sacrifice him there as a burnt offering on a mountain I will show you." Holy hell! On a whim, God decides to test Abraham's faith by telling him to murder his only son. What sort of monster is God? Also, only son? What happened to Ishmael? Abraham is also his father. Isaac is actually the second son. But I guess God doesn't know how to count to 2. Goes straight from 1 to Trinity. Why does Abraham need to be tested anyway? He's done everything God has wanted him to do, including lying about his sister wife. At least we can expect Abraham to put up some sort of fight here, right? The next verse is just Abraham saying, "No!" Right? Early the next morning, Abraham got up and loaded his donkey. He took with him 2 of his servants and his son Isaac. When he had cut enough wood for the burnt offering, he set out for the place God had told him about. On the 3rd day, Abraham looked up and saw the place in the distance. He said to his servants, "Stay here with the donkey while I and the boy go over there. We will worship, and then we will come back to you." No pushback from Abraham at all. Think of all the things he could have said. "Surely you're joking, God. I can't do that, God. I can't obey a cruel tyrant, God. God, Sarah didn't have a kid until she was 90, and this is what you're doing with him? I thought we were pro-life, God." He didn't say anything. Abraham put up a fight when God was going to kill every person in Sodom. Remember Abraham negotiating that number down? But now we're talking about murdering his son, and Abraham's reaction is like, "Yeah, all right, let me grab my stabbing knife." It takes an evil God to suggest doing this, and it takes an awful father to agree to do this. Would you have done this? If the answer is no, you're more moral than the Christian God. How the hell did Christians ever become the family values people? Look at their values. I know this isn't relevant, but what lie do you think Abraham used to lure Isaac to his death? "Hey, only son, I have a present for you. It's in the middle of nowhere." What should you pack? Oh, the usual. Matches, a butcher knife. Abraham took the wood for the burnt offering and placed it on his son Isaac, and he himself carried the fire and the knife. As the 2 of them went on together, Isaac spoke up and said to his father Abraham, "Father?" "Yes, my son," Abraham replied. "The fire and wood are here," Isaac said, "but where is the lamb for the burnt offering?" Oh, you poor deluded Isaac. You are so close to figuring it out. Did he not realize there was no lamb when they got on the donkey? Did he not realize he's the lamb? God, I wish the Bible had photos because I really want to see Isaac's face in just a moment. What an amazing gif that would be. Abraham answered, "God himself will provide the lamb for the burnt offering, my son." And the 2 of them went on together. That is a maniacal serial killer answer right there. Look at that response. God himself will provide the lamb for the burnt offering, my son. Change the comma and it still makes sense. God himself will provide the lamb for the burnt offering, my son. When they reached the place God had told him about, Abraham built an altar there and arranged the wood on it. He bound his son Isaac and laid him on the altar on top of the wood. Then he reached out his hand and took the knife to slay his son. How do we not hear from Isaac at this moment? "Dad, why are we building this altar? Dad, why are you placing me on this altar? Dad, why are you surrounding me with wood on this altar? Dad, why do you have that creepy glazed look over your eyes? Dad, why are you bringing that knife down in a stabbing motion toward me? Dad, am I the lamb?" It's kind of incredible that Abraham chopping off the foreskins of hundreds of men is somehow not the worst thing he's done with a knife. But the angel of the Lord called out to him from heaven, "Abraham, Abraham!" "Here I am," he replied. "Do not lay a hand on the boy," he said. "Do not do anything to him. Now I know that you fear God because you have not withheld from me your son, your only son." Hats off to that angel for nailing his cue. He couldn't be a second late, and he wasn't. Why isn't God here? Leave it to an evil cartoon villain to plot out a murder, then disappear and let a henchman take over. Maybe that was a way for God to have an out. You know, if the angel was late and Isaac died, God could be like, "You were supposed to stop him!" Ah well, not my fault. My hands are clean. What's with Abraham's completely nonchalant response? Stab, stab, stab. Here I am, what's up? Why did it take the actual stabbing motion for the angel to realize Abraham feared God? Wasn't it enough that when God told him to commit murder, he didn't even ask questions? Couldn't the angel figure it out when Abraham was placing the wood on the altar? And I can't believe the Bible doesn't give us Isaac's reaction here. There's no, "Oh, thank God," or "Please save me, this man is insane." Also, how come no one ever talks about how Isaac must be traumatized from all this? How much did he have to pay in therapy bills for the rest of his life? Abraham looked up, and there in a thicket, he saw a ram caught by its horns. He went over and took the ram and sacrificed it as a burnt offering instead of his son. So Abraham called that place, "The Lord will provide." And to this day, it is said, "On the mountain of the Lord it will be provided." Well, that took a weird turn. Was Abraham trying to convince his only son a bit too late that this was really an animal sacrifice? "Oh, you thought I was gonna murder you?" No. Oh, look, a ram! Stab. I'm still in shock by the bloodlust of these people. Abraham spared his child, but he's here and he has a knife. Gotta kill something. What, are we all just supposed to go home? In some translations, Abraham named the place Jehovah Jireh. And that's a phrase you might want to know because, among other things, it's referenced in a Frank Ocean song. Though calling that place something that translates to "the Lord will provide" is still not as accurate as just calling it Stabby Town. The angel of the Lord called to Abraham from heaven a second time and said, "I swear by myself, declares the Lord, that because you have done this and have not withheld your son, your only son, I will surely bless you and make your descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky and as the sand on the seashore. Your descendants will take possession of the cities of their enemies, and through your offspring all nations on earth will be blessed because you have obeyed me." Why does God need to keep reminding Abraham about all the descendants he's gonna have? It's messed up that Abraham had to almost sacrifice one of his sons in order to get the other billion. God already promised this stuff. Abraham shouldn't have needed to almost kill his son to get something God already told him he would get. Then Abraham returned to his servants, and they set off together for Beersheba, and Abraham stayed in Beersheba. Right, the servants. They were here the whole time. I almost forgot. And what were they doing during the almost stabbing? Nothing. They just sat back and did nothing. Preventing a murder? Off the clock. No thank you. In any case, you know what would make this all better now? Some apologies from God and Abraham. Or a heart-to-heart between father and his only son. Instead, we're gonna get a random genealogy for no reason. Sometime later, Abraham was told, "Milcah is also a mother. She has borne sons to your brother Nahor. Uz, the firstborn, Buz, his brother, Kemuel, the father of Aram, Chesed, Hazo, Pildash, Jidlaph, and Bethuel. Bethuel became the father of Rebekah. Milcah bore these 8 sons to Abraham's brother Nahor. His concubine, whose name was Reumah, also had sons, Teba, Gaham, Thehush, and Maacah." Wait, There are brothers named Uz and Buz. How did I not know this until now? Also, you have to enjoy how Nahor apparently decided to have 8 kids before letting Abraham know he's an uncle. What was the point of that? Just one reason. This is the first genealogy in which we finally hear the name of a woman, Rebecca. That's like Chekhov's gun. You know she's gonna be important down the road. And I guess we should be excited that Nahor's concubine had babies too. I'm sure his wife is thrilled. So the moral of the story here is that if you hear a voice in your head telling you to murder your child, don't bother seeing a psychiatrist. That's just God telling you he loves you and you must obey. And somehow those are Christian values.